ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Podcast here today. Today, I'm joined by Kevin again, and this is a bit early, but you guys requested some more F1 content, so I thought I had a free week with nothing going on as we're preparing for episode 100 next week, which has already been filmed. Where we
That's for the illusion.
Where we ranked every episode of Doctor Who, ever.
That's a long podcast, mate.
No, it's in two parts.
Okay. Even still,
we haven't filmed part 2 yet. I think part 1's like an hour and a half. So there you go.
I mean, don't say like I'm joined again, like it's a chore. Like, I mean,
no, it's never a chore, with you, Kevin. Never a chore. Right. So obviously, last podcast, first of all, you guys went bananas with the viewing and stuff. So I much appreciate it to all those who decided to watch it, and that's the reason you get another one of these, because people have asked for it, and you know,
it's entirely due to my influence, of course. You mustn't take any credit.
Absolutely, you can't. You know, absolutely. The Genesis Arc on Twitter has got all the followers. But no, this is also, I will say, Kevin has got a cough, so apologies if he coughs throughout the podcast. He's recently.
I said don't mention it. I
mentioned it.
Yeah, well, now you've
got vid.
There you go. That's all I'll try and do.
Yes. Okay. So obviously, last time we were here, we did predictions. We did everything.
Yeah, they were wrong.
They got out the window. My first question to you, Kevin, is before racing, are you enjoying the 2022 season?
I am, but honestly, I'm not as much as I was this time last year, and that's. I enjoyed the pre-season because obviously we're into a new era of car, and I always find that.
Hang on, you've just seen me almost fall off the bed.
I'll leave that.
I'll leave that in. No, I'll leave that.
Do you want to stop? Okay.
No, I'll leave that in. That's fine.
What was I saying? There's a whole new generation of cars. So I always found the pre-season a bit interesting about that. With that, but I've never. I'll say this: I never in my life thought I would ever be cheering for Ferrari to beat the new enemy. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a Red Bull fan. Philosophically, right. I'm not a fan of the. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Like you love Christian Horner, though, don't you?
I can't stand the man. But I don't not respect Max Verstappen. Of course I do. He's going to win tons of championships. He's clearly very talented. But I think Susie Wolff summed it up perfectly in the most recent series of Drive to Survive, which was, I think, to be successful, you've got to be ruthless and all the rest of it. But what I don't believe is you've got to be an arsehole. And I really think he's a bit of an arsehole. I'm sorry, everybody. Sorry, Max fan.
Absolutely. I agree. Obviously, we're big Lando fans here. But big George, I'm a big fan of Charles Leclerc as well. But right, we won't go race by race. I'll go essentially throw a few things at you, Kev, and I want to get your opinion on them.
All right.
Obviously, one of the big things going into the season was, can the cars overtake more? Is the racing going to be better? And I have to say, I think they've achieved that, unless your name is Imola.
I mean, they've achieved like 75% of it. I would say. They can follow closer.
Yes,
Imola,
that's the mega one. That's the mega one, isn't it?
And that's and it's not the work of a moment. And I think if anything's letting, from what I've read, if anything's letting the racing down, it's the tires and not really the aero regs. But that's I mean, who knows? I'm not in the car.
I also think as well, we've not had the best tracks for overtaking. I mean, we've had Bahrain, which is a really good track for overtaking. It was a really good race. Then you had Saudi Arabia. Then you had Australia. Oh no! And now we've had Imola.
I was so hopeful for Australia because the circuit had undergone a huge revamp.
It was better, but only because Alex Albon had the stint of his career.
I mean, that was impressive. He went 99.9% of the race on one set of tires, and at the last lap went, I'll have to fulfill the regulations and change his tires. That was amazing.
Yeah. One thing we'll say that is incredibly fun this year is that there's so many more battles up and down the field because the cars can follow. You can get so many better fights up and down. So, for example, the Alpines going at it in Saudi was great because it was, like you said, because they can follow now. It was lap after lap after lap of them just consistently going for it, and it was
I mean,
really
look,
fun
and
to see.
don't forget Saudi, there was fighting at the front, and there was some good tactical driving at the front between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. But I mean, it's difficult. I mean, we're all obviously on the hype train. This is going to be the year where the regulations satisfy, everyone's view of what Formula One should be, and they'll be overtaking left, right, and centre. Formula One isn't that, in my mind. It's a bit more of a long game. It's strategic.
It's a game of chess, and I think we've seen that in certain races, with Australia and things where tyre is coming to it, and do you box? Do you not? This person has box. Should you box?
That's exactly right. I mean, it should be hard, and it should be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think as well, the one thing that's been good about it is that you kind of have that complement of racing. The next big thing, Kev, was porpoising, and it is the bane of my existence because I'd never want to go on an onboard camera again. It makes me feel sick.
I mean, if you think that's making you feel sick, I read
exactly.
I read an article with George Russell. He said this year my back is knackered. Like I've trained especially for porpoising. Obviously, the Mercedes car is suffering pretty badly with it. I can only imagine what it's like. I mean, you can see on the end of the fast straights, these guys they're like this the whole time. It must be horrible. I mean, don't feel too sorry for the Formula One drivers. So, I mean,
you said a quote from I think Matteo Binotto, who said the first car to handle porpoising is going to have a massive advantage. Now we've seen that most cars are still doing it, but some cars can react better to it than others, which is really interesting.
Weirdly, the Ferrari is still doing it a lot.
Yes,
but it's still the fastest car, even by a nose. It's still doing that. So I mean, there's obviously other things at play. I do think
absolutely.
though that obviously we're big McLaren fans, and after the first 3 races,
we shall get into McLaren.
Is that another? Okay,
that's another topic. That is another topic in of itself. Okay. But yeah, I think overall racing and even the porpoising aspect of it, I think it's made it more interesting this year. Like you say, the F1 should never be overtake. Never going to happen like that. Never should be that because it would get boring because it would be too long and you just be saying, this lap, Charles Leclerc overtakes Max Verstappen. The next lap, Max Verstappen gets back through. It'd be like, when you get those kind of pockets for half a lap or a lap of just consistent back and forth, that's the excitement. If that's all the way through, poor old Crofty's going to have a heart attack.
But on that topic, like one of the other things I find fascinating about F1 is the development race, is the sort of that kind of challenging of the, you start with a baseline of what you think you can do, and then using your resources, let's say, you sort of combat the regulations and you find not necessarily loopholes, but you optimize things. And I think that's something I always find fascinating. Some teams are way better at that than others.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the exciting thing of this year is that still, I think technically, even though I think Ferrari have got one foot in the fastest car, technically, if a car could unlock something, they could easily get themselves straight into that bike. Like, it's not game over yet. It's not like last year where it was definitely Mercedes and Red Bull far front. At this point, we've seen the leaps that McLaren and other teams have taken forward. If they just do that again, they could be in it. Mercedes can be in it. And Mercedes, I was going to say, for my money, by the midpoint of the season, probably will be back in it. I think they're too smart not to be. I don't think it'll be with Lewis Hamilton. But hey, we'll get onto that.
Well, I mean, who knows? Not us.
Bottas. But also, I want to talk about Haas and specifically Kevin Magnussen because he surprised me. I mean, I did put him on like 15th on my list, but he's been in it from qualifying 1 in Bahrain.
Yeah,
he was on it.
He's just so he's so happy just to be there.
He's loving the car, isn't he? He's loving it.
Every interview, he's beaming away.
Exactly. I was talking to my friend the other day about how for the first time in a year we can really support Haas again and get behind them because they are possibly the lowest income team. Possibly they are independent. We all love Gunther Steiner, so to see him back and smiling and happy, you got to love that. We all love a bit of Gunther. I actually watched the Drive to Survive episode all about Mazepin yesterday, which is hilarious because it's just what a dickhead he is. He's like, just give me a different car. Have
Yeah,
you
he
seen that
doesn't.
one?
He doesn't come
Have you
out of
seen
it
that?
well. Yeah, I have.
Have you?
I've seen the whole series. He doesn't come out of the episode well, but it is interesting, that episode. That's
Gunther does though. I'm now in the Audi catalogue. But yeah,
the shoot
I just
for yeah. But it's amazing that the some of the things he said are since then as well. Mazepin, if you can be bothered to look.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad reading, and I'm happy they got rid of him. To be honest, I'm happy they're on this new trajectory. To be fair as well, Mick hasn't hit the ground running this year. He's had a few good drives. Fair to him. He's had a few good drives. But we've just seen that signed to sign a new contract with Ferrari for another 2 years. Where does Mick fit into this? If Mick doesn't start up, because we know how ruthless Ferrari are, and obviously the Schumacher name is gone, and they want if he can ignite that, they want to keep it. But
I mean, yeah, it is, but it only goes so far. I mean, look, let's be honest. The Senna name has been in Formula One and then rejected.
Bruno Senna, yeah.
Like it doesn't. It only takes you so far. Like he obviously has to be judged on the merits of what he can be judged on, and this year is is probably where they're going to take the view, because he, against Mazepin is one thing, but against the known quantity,
yeah,
it's a bit different
for him. Is he wasn't used to overtaking and being in battles that much last year, so he's kind of been thrown into in the deep end. But he's, to be fair, he's done well. I might be a bit harsh on him. He's done all right. It's just it seems that at the minute K-Mag can hit that extra gear only by a little bit, but it seems like K-Mag just has that little bit. But the issue is because of how the difference is between the mid pack is so slim, that little extra bit is getting Kev P8s from P7 sometimes.
And
this is the big difference.
Yeah, this is the value of experience. I mean, don't forget, he's obviously not a rookie anymore, but Schumacher's only done one season in a shitbox. And
exactly.
and K-Mag's done well. I mean, think about it. He's been around for when did he arrive? 2013, 14, something like that. Right at the beginning of the hybrid era, so more than you think.
Yeah, and I think he was also on the podium, I think, as well, wasn't he, in his first race? It was 2014 Australia, I think.
Yeah,
Perez was in the McLaren 2013, so it must be 2014.
So it's sort of I'd give him some more slack.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I'm not going out. Schumacher out, he's crap. I'm just saying at the minute, when you look at the fact that Max was able to get 15 points from 4 races and Shuey only be able to get 0 points from 4 races, it doesn't look for good reading. But obviously, what you see on paper isn't always what is in the race.
No,
but I do think that I do worry for Schumacher's future if this is his level for the year. Is what I mean. I think if he continues to sort of be on the edge, they might go, right, let's put in one of our other drivers, because they've got a hell of a lot of them.
But as you say, if you were to look at the on paper results of Mercedes this year, I mean, you and I know you wouldn't dismiss Lewis Hamilton, but based purely on...
I think it's accurate to where he would be, roughly, in race trim. I mean, because he's 7th at the minute, right? Which I think is fair. He's at a podium, and it was a fair fought. But essentially, the Red Bulls, didn't finish. But at the end of the day, he was still finishing 5th in that race, and he's,
Yeah, but I'm talking. If you base yourself on against your teammate, where's George?
He's in
third, fourth. Third. There you go.
He's in fourth.
Yeah, I mean
let's
difficult reading.
Let's talk about McLaren next, because I feel like we should leave Mercedes in the title fight proper. By the way, this will be a shorter time as podcast this week. It won't be hours and hours long for you listeners. But you've got episode 100, parts 1 and 2 coming, so deal with it. I'm joking. But yeah, so McLaren for me, that first race was horrible to watch.
Yeah,
it was horrible to watch, because I came on this podcast. I was like, "This is the year I believe." I know I look like a mug. Well, I did at that point. I said I did at that point because I still somewhat believe that some of my prediction will come true slightly. But that first race was dire, especially coming off Barcelona and the things we heard about the red and orange car being the car.
That's what I was going to say. Like you say, like you came across as a mug, but everyone who was watching went, well, based on all the evidence, it seems like Ferrari and McLaren are going to be title contenders, and they still might be, because like you said
Short
at the
game
start,
over.
at the top of the show, like it's such a long season. B, we're at the very beginning of a completely new set of regs, which is very different to being at the end of a stable set of regulations,
Yeah.
because there are these big jumps that you can take, and clearly between races 3 and 4, McLaren / Lando's side of the garage found something.
I think you're being harsh. I think you're being harsh. Because I was going to say, I'm going to praise Danny Rick this season. I think overall he's closed that gap. Maybe I mean, again, maybe I don't think he has the understanding and the perhaps the way of with the car Lando does. But you look at him last year. I mean, obviously got the win in Italy, but in Monza, but that was one in a moon. Whereas this season, actually, he's been really close to Lando. To be honest, there's not been many blunders. But
he's
it's
had
the
a
same,
year though, isn't he? He's had a year.
Yeah, but I would say the same thing with K-Mag and Shumi, if you're going to put it that way. You know, there's that little bit, there's that extra gear that Lando has compared to Danny, but I'd say Danny's done a solid job. More than solid.
I mean, he's done it well.
You know, I mean, obviously, you know, I'd say Imola is the exception, but that wasn't really his fault. Racing incident, in my opinion. Imola, you're not getting through from the back unless you had a 2021 Mercedes in the back of it and took them all out. But
I mean, even still, like one little mistake. I mean, look at Sainz, right? I mean, he one mistake earlier on in the weekend can really screw you up. But in reality, his teammate made arguably a bigger error, just a different time that had a more obvious outcome there and then. But they were both prone to mistakes, and obviously, without slightly concerning, but that's a different conversation. But I mean, I just think
I will say this in defense of Danny Rick before we move on to Ferrari and stuff. I'm going to look at the race. I've got the rest up here. I remembered Bahrain was a write-off. None of them were scoring points. They were both down. Then you think of Saudi Arabia, in which Danny Rick was right behind Lando, and unfortunately his box gave out. Then you have Australia. Well, actually, he was pretty much with Lando. They were, you know, Lando was like, what, 2 seconds ahead? And that was just for the sake of ease, I think. I think they were both quite on the pace. And you have this weekend where, again, qualifying, you didn't do too bad. So I think, Kevin, you're being a bit mean to Mr. Ricciardo. I think you're being a bit mean to Mr. Ricciardo. I think you're just a Lando fanboy.
I am a fan. I'm a huge fan of them both. But what I would say is it's Danny Rick. Like, we all expected
I think more. Danny Rick's overrated. I think Danny Rick's overrated.
Well, that's different though, isn't it? But we all thought Danny Rick is going to be.
I want to say I love Danny Rick. You know I love Danny Rick. I think he's brilliant. He's my favorite personality on the grid now. Kimmy's left, you know, and that is a sad thing. I mean, you know, but I don't know. I'm backing Danny Rick for another good season, a better season in terms of proximity to Lando. Like you look at the results and you can't really judge it because Saudi Arabia, he was right there again with Lando Norris. Really, it was very minimal, and I think he wasn't he ahead when he DNF'd? I think he was ahead of Danny.
Who knows? I mean, who knows where it would have gone.
I think you're a Lando Norris fanboy.
I am. But I don't dislike Daniel Ricciardo either.
I know, but if I asked you who would you want to win the World Championship, Lando Norris or Daniel Ricciardo, you would answer Lando Norris.
Lando Norris, of course. but what I mean is, what I was saying is, like, you know, I do, yeah, but he's Danny Rick. This is the person who was at least the equal of Max at Red Bull. I know that Max was a bit younger, but he certainly was a concern for Verstappen as a teammate.
Oh, absolutely. And
so he goes to another team and he's like,
yeah, but I think, again, you're being quite harsh because, like I'm saying, you can't really judge him based on this season yet. You say he's had a year and a bit. Yes, he's scored, 11 points. When you look at the circumstances around it, he wasn't going to score in the first race. He was going to score in the second race, close to Lando Norris. He did score close to Lando Norris in the third race. And in the fourth race, he qualified close to Lando Norris and then crashed out. So I think, really...
Yeah. Maybe you're right.
I don't know what you're expecting. I'm going to back the corner of Danny Rick. I love Lando as well. I'm just saying that I think to still say that stigma is there, I think at this point is unfair because I feel like we've not had...
That's a valid point. That's a fair comment, and I think you're probably he's due a bit more slack.
He's had a bit of bad luck. He's had a bit. Leash. Speaking of bad luck, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah,
I really wanted this guy to win.
I mean, he's still again. Look,
I know. I know.
don't forget, this is a man who's in the best car on the grid still.
I know, but he's not the best driver in the best car on the grid, and it's.
But like I said earlier,
I'm sorry. Charles Leclerc massively dominant. Like, this is something we can contrast more, right? Carlos Sainz he's had 2 races now where he's crashed out. You look at his first 2 races though. Charles had him all over. Like, although they finished close together, there's been a 10-second gap, or it's been Charles versus Verstappen. It's very clear it's a Charles Max fight and a Sainz Perez fight. For me, I think. And that's really unfortunate. I think for Sainz, that comes down to confidence. I think he's got no confidence at the minute. I think.
Well, you're not helping that, are you? With that attitude,
Carlos, I love you, man. I love him. I really like him. I really, obviously, he was very loyal to McLaren when we were on the up again. So I have nothing but love for the man. I wanted to do work for Ferrari actually, and I'm happy he's got the extension because he deserves it. He is. I think he's been, speaking of underrated drivers, he might be one of the most underrated of all time until the season if he can get a bit of consistency going. But
what I don't understand is the amount of slack you'll cut Danny Rick for being, and then you even have and then you won't give Carlos the same.
Okay. I think there is a chance Carlos can win. However, I think Leclerc is better. Which is what we're essentially
look at the mistakes. Both of them made mistakes. Both of them made mistakes, which cost them big. But one was in the race.
Charles is stupid.
But I just think you can't give a massive pass.
I'm not saying that Carlos Sainz is a shithouse. I'm not saying that at all. But I think
he's no Rick Gunathan in your eyes.
I think you need to also look at the fact of how the mistakes have come about for Carlos. Lots of crashes in qualifying, in Imola, in quali, not in the race was a racing incident. Quali, then Australia was just an absolute fucking mess for him. That was just poor. Whereas Danny Ricks have been the car. Unless you would have, like I said, I didn't take the racing incident. I didn't take the racing incident into account because that's a racing incident for both of them. Neither of them were at fault. 2-1 didn't go in that space, But Carlos has been a bit more slippery.
Equally, if I said to you, would you be surprised if next race Sainz won it?
No.
No, exactly.
No.
So that means that really, with 4 races in, I mean,
Carlos could still win the thing. Could still win the thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, look, if Charles Leclerc doesn't score next race and Sainz wins it, there's 25 points back on him. That would put him on 2 seconds, 63 points, which would put him close to Charles Leclerc on 86. And then essentially it's just fight straight shoot. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm worried if Charles doesn't do it, the Max is going to do it again, and we don't want that. But yeah, Carlos, he's had a good start. I think he just needs to get that consistency going. I think he has proven that he can be up there with them. But I think, for me, if he wants to win a championship, these mistakes need to stop. It's not just the car.
I agree, but I would say the same about Charles because
Charles is the same.
Yeah, I mean, you can't win. You can't win with these mistakes. And I know that. Like Lewis made mistakes. He made at least one. I'm thinking of like Imola last year. He made one in the rain. He made one in Azerbaijan, and there were probably numerous things that you don't sort of realize at the time. But they all say, don't they? Like to win, you really have to be so consistently mistake free. And I mean, at the moment, who's mistake free? Well, it's Max, because I don't know where Lewis has gone, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I also want to give a quick shout out to one driver. That driver is Valtteri Bottas. I think he's had a great year at Alfa Romeo. And I'm really happy for him. I have to, because look, he got a lot of shit as the Mercedes team, rightfully so, because he wasn't good in terms of Lewis Hamilton levels. He wasn't there. But I'm so happy that he's gone to a team like Alfa Romeo. I think when he went to Alfa Romeo, he went, I'm so happy he's in the sport, but Christ, he's just going to be at the back. And thankfully, he seems to be able to work that car.
What I keep thinking whenever I see him and how he's positioned in relation to George or Lewis is he must be quite smug about it at the time, because he's just thinking I could have been in that seat and thank fuck I'm not. I mean, sorry,
no, you can. John notoriously says the C word on every week he's on.
Okay,
so It's fine. But yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Valtteri Bottas, I'm just going to say it like that because Daniel Ricciardo's got that in my head every time he says it. I think has been sublime, genuinely sublime because
And that's
not.
strong.
No, not in terms of it being championship strength, but I think in terms of where you look at Zhou Guan Yu as well, he was obviously fourth race in Formula One. He's going to have time to get good stuff. He's really taken the team under his wing, scoring 24 points already. That's a decent constructors' haul
I
based
mean,
on
don't
one
forget,
driver.
he's not maybe at
No,
Lewis Hamilton level, but he's not a shitbox.
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's why I'm happy for him that he's been able to go to a team where he can show that. And
Yeah.
I really like him. I think he's a really good. I don't think he's aggressive enough, but I think he's a really fair racer. Maybe a bit too fair. But at the end of the day, Bottas, I think, could be one of the people. He could be a sleeper hit of the season. Perhaps get a podium at some point if things go his way. I think it's between him and K-Mag. Really, I'm not saying on pure pace. I'm saying that if like some crashes
go
happen,
right.
or yeah, him or K-Mag, I think are those two drivers in that mid pack that you could really go. Those are the two that are going to capitalize on that kind of situation. I mean, K-Mag almost did it in one of the races. He came like fifth. He was this close, So, and I think you have to put Bottas in that same level of just he's gone to a new team in 4 races. I know it's a different car, but he's gone to a new car after driving the same car for 4 years. He's done what Daniel Ricciardo couldn't in that aspect. He's got to it straight away, And
Yeah, he's clearly very adaptable because it's it's more than a new car; it's a new engine. I know that it's that sounds a bit trivial, but the drivability and the understanding of how to use it.
Well, that was the big thing with Danny Rick, wasn't it? When he moved, he was like, "Oh, the engine."
Yeah, well, he'd been behind a Renault for a long time, so in one form or another. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think he has done well, and he is a more than worthy of a seat in F1. Obviously, at one point he was in the top seat in F1, but just the problem you have is your teammate is the greatest of all time.
Statistically anyway.
Well, okay, yeah.
Before we get some people, I mean, he is in my opinion the greatest, but I never saw Schumacher drive. So for me,
one of the greatest of all time, debatably.
I think I'm a Hamilton fan. Even though some people aren't, but I'd say I think Bottas has shown now. I think as well because it must have been difficult for him for a few years to not be able to reach that. And I think also getting the public scrutiny. So maybe to kind of come in and kind of not do it on the level, but say to who it may concern and sort of be like, no, I actually am good enough to score regular points, put me in a decent car. Yeah. I can be the talisman of that team. And, obviously, look, let's talk about Zhou Guan Yu quickly. Nothing special, but not off the boil.
No, and I mean, this is somebody who, I mean, it's so hard to know. He's literally had 4 races in Formula One, so he's not a he obviously has earned a seat in F1 as much as anyone earns a seat in F1. If you come into the bottom team, obviously bring a lot of money with you, but I'm not saying he's got there solely on money. But I'm pretty sure that Mazepin could have beaten me at a go-kart race. He's not terrible.
I reckon you could beat Dimitri. But yeah, I have to say that I think Zhou Guan Yu, especially with the positivity of that for a minute, like it's not the best car in the grid, but again, that's the brilliance of the season. Any car really, even the Williams, with Alex Albon at the wheel, can score points. But yeah,
and this is what goes back to what I was saying earlier about
it's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting because to go any driver can score. It's exciting.
Well, it can be because of the youth of the regulations. If a team unlocks something or is onto something, a concept, because obviously some of these teams that have I think Paul di Resta was saying in possibly in practice about some of the teams that have got on top of the porpoising have almost, I mean, this sounds a bit harsh, but I've almost lucked into it. They've gone down a road of development and they've gone, porpoising's not a problem so much. They've got something else that keeps it under control, or they're still porpoising, but it's compensated for with the philosophy for the rest of whatever it is. So Perhaps
yeah.
some teams can take these big leaps forward.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
only they go that's the thing, and if they can nail it, obviously it's more likely the further you get up the grid because the money that you can have and the resource you have, which is why I think although they say no, look, we're out of the championship now, but Mercedes do have the development capacity, even with the
Yeah.
cost in the cost cap era, to be able to
Oh, of
go.
course.
This is the
Of course.
thing, and they'll be back.
Of course.
Who
And
knows?
I look, you can't deny the power of Mercedes, and they've got some brilliant people working there. The boffins at HQ, they're going to get onto it and do some stuff. But let's look at the bottom of the table. In not in 20th place, in 21st place, Nicholas Latifi. Now, Nick, I need to talk to you because I backed you. I was like, Nick, this is your time. Not to be world
Why?
champion because I liked him.
I like him.
Like,
He's meant to be one of the nicest guys on the grid. I don't dislike him at all.
Nick, mate, please. You've not quite been shithouse, but you've not been far off. Please, mate. You're behind Nico Hülkenberg. And he's not even he's not even done many races. Mate,
Okay,
Nick,
so your Scapito, who runs Williams, I think that's him. How long do you give it before you go? Do you know what, Nick?
Nick,
it's not working. It's not
working out.
Because this is what his third year.
Get Nick Latifi out and put JB Chadwick in it next year. I'd love to see it.
There are other options. That's what I'm saying.
Again, she's really good personality as well. The one thing we've got in Formula One right now is these rich veins of personality, right? I think that's really cool. I mean, we got rid of Mazepin, we got rid of the biggest personality, Kimi Raikkonen, but I'm not saying
biggest and smallest. It was a strange one with Kimi, wasn't it?
It's kind of that biggest and smallest sums you up as well. But yeah, it's for those
never showing you again.
No, never. Especially when she's a proven winner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole.
I get. We've seen people miss out. Oscar Piastri should be in the sport, in my opinion.
He will be at some stage. He's got to be.
Please. I hope we get some more seats. Hopefully we get some more seats.
Like I say, more than whether you're a guy or a girl with Formula One. I really honestly think it comes down to how much money can you bring, and that's the problem. So if you're not getting the sponsors, it's a systemic thing. Without getting on a high horse, it's a bit the patriarch in action. You can't
absolutely.
Get up the rung. If you might be good enough, but you can't be. If you get to a certain level, you sort of hit a ceiling and you have no money.
Yeah, it's all
which
about
is why
money.
when Ron Dennis was asked years ago, Ron Dennis, who's obviously was the
I know who Ron Dennis is.
Team principal of McLaren.
Will we see an F1?
Will we see a female Formula One driver, in the next whatever? And he said probably not within my lifetime. Not because he didn't think there was anything capable, they were incapable, but he just thought that the system set up in such a way that it's not.
Yeah, it's also a shame that the lack of seats in Formula One. Hopefully, again with the budget caps, teams can maybe go, oh, I might dip my toe in. I don't know if that's the thing. I don't look at F1 news that much on the outskirts, so I don't know.
I think for a long time, the talk of the town has been that in some form, the Volkswagen and Audi group, who own pretty much everything, will enter Formula One somehow. Whether it's under Volkswagen, whether it's under Audi whether it's one of the other things they own, whether they'll buy out a current team.
Please don't. We need more teams.
And then compete, but they might then compete under that team, or who knows?
Yeah, I think 20 cars is a pretty decent amount, really, in terms of racing. It's just whenever you see these drivers like Hulkenberg, Piastri, even Chadwick, missing out, you kind of go,
yeah. I mean, but that's Formula One, isn't it? I mean,
of course, it's nature of the beast.
The higher, the fewer.
Yes, but also I'd say for Williams as well, there's a bit of uncertainty because how long will Red Bull allow Albon to stay at Williams?
I'm still
could they pluck him?
I'm still unclear as to whether he's under contract to Red Bull.
He is.
Okay.
He's got a Red Bull hat. He's got Red Bull on his helmet, so I assume.
So that's how you know.
But yeah, I think Albon. It's so difficult for him because I don't see him ever getting back into that Red Bull seat. But
What
And
about
then
the
a day.
AlphaTauri?
Oh,
What about if they've been off Sonoda or?
Sonoda's pretty good this year. Sonoda's pretty good so far.
But I mean, so's Albon.
You can't get rid of Yuki. You can't get rid of him. He's too good. I'm a Yuki stan. Big up Yuki.
He's got a messy apartment, as was revealed by Drive to Survive.
You think you'd clean it before they come in, mate? Netflix are on the way. Let's clean the apartment.
Leave it. It's fine.
Right, the elephant in the room. Like I said, we can't really talk about the World Championship because it's full race there, and we're not going to make a prediction today because it'll be pointless. Again, if these podcasts are popular, we might do more. So we'll see. But Mercedes, more specifically, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
What the hell?
What as in what is going on? I suspect that it's a combination of last year, the end of last year, how it his headspace, time, and his natural kind of style. So these cars are apparently, well, they are fundamentally different in how they generate lap time. They generate downforce in an entirely different way. So it's almost like George Russell has been king of shitboxes for 3 years and can drive it. You know, he's kind of used to maybe a bit of unorthodox thinking. Lewis Hamilton hasn't been in that situation. It's still Lewis Hamilton, and I think given time, he's never not won a race in any year he's competed in Formula One.
My question to you, this is a big question. If the current trajectory stays the same, is this the last year of Lewis Hamilton in Formula
One? If it stays the same for the whole year, I think
if they're in a mid-pack team who's sort of pushing on the podiums but not quite getting there,
maybe
is this it?
I think he must be looking around over his shoulder and thinking, why would I continue to trail around at the back or the midfield behind a teammate? So I think that's a strong possibility.
Obviously he's thinking of buying Chelsea Football Club, so there's already a gap. But I mean, it's gonna be one of those days where you kind of go, holy shit, like, you know, for me especially, because I know obviously, I mean to you, you're a bit older, you've seen drivers come and go, and you know, Schumi and stuff. But for me, that would be the first big one. Again, this icon. If that's the same when Seb goes. When the day Seb leaves, I'd say even more so for me than when Raikkonen left, because when I've watched F1, Raikkonen's always kind of been. He was in the Ferrari in his second stint, but I wasn't World Championship winning Kimi Raikkonen. Whereas if Seb goes, I remember watching Seb as a young boy. I remember watching Lewis as a young boy, and when those two go, and if it's the same year, I might just cry.
You say that, and it's always sad. I remember when my hero, when I was younger, was Hakkinen, because he's one of the drivers that I was watching with.
Good old Mika.
Mika. And I remember when he went, I was like, oh, it's not the same. But the story will continue. Like, I know it's.
Of course, like, it's not going to be the end of Formula One if they go.
No, and exactly, like Hakkinen used to say, like, this isn't a sad time. This is a happy time. I'm still here. I'm still going to be around. Everyone's still going to be around. I'm just not going to be in the car. Like, it's fine.
Well, I don't think Lewis will be. I think once
I don't think we'll ever see Raikkonen ever again. I think that'll be him done.
I think we'll see Seb a lot. I think Seb will come back.
Yeah, completely. I think Seb will do around F1.
I think he'll join the Haas Formula One team. Public Schumacher.
Could well be.
But yeah, overall, I think to wrap this episode up, obviously we're 4 races in. Next week we're going to Miami.
Yeah, well, are we? Because I mean, there was some doubt cast over that. Well, because the residents are unhappy, and they launched an 11th hour appeal as to try and to sort of injunct the race. So I think
it's not going to happen, is it?
I've not heard anything since, so I'm assuming
after all the money going in and how long they've known it's happening.
Yeah,
for them to do it now was kind of like, it's kind of like when you're a uni student and you forgot to do your assignment. It's due in 2 hours. You text your lecturer going, "Sorry, my dog at the computer."
Yeah, I think it probably will happen. But however, I mean, this is again impossible to know. Looking at the track, my immediate reaction was,
"Oh yeah, but it's a spectacle race, isn't it? It's a spectacle race, isn't it?"
You know,
and I think overall I'm excited for it. I have to admit, it's like, for example, when things like us, like when Doctor Who was in the cinema for the Day of the Doctor, right? When Doctor Who breaks that kind of echelon of being just for like the niche market who watch it, and people go, "Holy crap! It's the 50th
Yeah.
Doctor." At the Miami Grand Prix will bring some big eyes onto the sport, which at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't need anymore because right now it's still another boom period, but it doesn't harm it. And I understand people going, don't get rid of traditional tracks. I get it. I'm the same. I like a traditional track. I love a Hockenheim. But at the end of the day, would they rather have a Hockenheim on the calendar or a Miami where they're going to sell so many more tickets, have
Yeah.
more celebrities there? At the end of the day as well, I think as fans of sports, maybe it's because I've known this sort of stuff for a while, but I've never sort of had that vindictive sort of, oh, why are they doing this? Why are they not catering towards the fan? Because at the end of the day, we're already there. They don't need to cater towards us now because they're never going to watch. At the end of the day, I think these races in Miami and Vegas is brilliant. It's
So
brilliant.
yeah,
It's brilliant to go, oh, the sport is big enough to literally rent out the Vegas Strip.
it's almost like for I mean, F1 has been sort of trying to crack America for forever, and it's had numerous like Dallas, Indianapolis, and it never quite hit as hard in America as it. Like, I mean, obviously people know what it is, but it's not.
Obviously,
It's not like
Kota has obviously been a
yeah.
successful Grand Prix.
It has been, but this is now the third race in the US, so it's like
it was second currently. It will become the third.
It will become but I mean, so they've announced that there will be three. So
the Vegas, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see them going down the strip at 200 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, obviously we'll quickly have a look at the schedule as well. So obviously we've got Vegas coming up. I'm going to ask you for a prediction. Who's going to win it? It's literally based off nothing because this season's absolutely mental. But
I think this season, I think
who's going to win the US Grand Prix? Who's going to win the US Grand Prix?
What the which one next? The Miami one.
This one coming up, Miami.
I'm going to go for Lando.
Nicholas Latifi.
It's not Latifi. He's never going to win a race.
Right. Firstly, what I'll say as well, but we'll wrap it up now because obviously I think it's all the thoughts we can really say at this point going into 4 Grand Prix soon. But what I will say is, you guys really wanted more F1 content, so this is what I will say to Kevin now. I'll pitch this to Kevin, see what you think. So obviously we did it at race 4. I'm not doing every 4 races. There's too many. That'd be like 6 F1 podcasts in a year. But I will say,
happy
the
to.
midpoint, the midpoint. Roughly is the British Grand. It's the British Grand. We'll do it before the summer break. We'll do it leading in. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because then the hype's still in. The summer break, people kind of switch off for a bit. It's like doing a Doctor Who podcast in the off season. There's kind of no point. But the British Grand Prix will be at around 10 by that point. We've done 10 rounds of the series. We're in the midpoint, early July. I say we do another one then. And we kind of we'll see where we're going. I think that might be
we'll know a lot more about the shape of how the season's gonna be by then, because I'm like 4 races is a tough ask to say. I mean, you can know who the front runners are, but I honestly thought McLaren were going to be up there. They still might be, but they certainly weren't in the first 3 races.
We might have a 23rd race still to come because we've not announced a replacement yet for that Grand Prix. So we might have a 23rd one coming on the way. But Kevin, do you want to quickly shout out your socials and your chops?
My socials, I don't know off the top of my head.
It's Kev Parr.
It is on Insta. It is, yeah, Kev Parr on Insta. That's right. I'm glad that somebody knows what they're doing. It's not me.
It's because you always like my photos. You like my photos, so it comes up.
Oh, well, you put out some nice stuff.
Thank you.
If you want to check out the Genesis arc, all one word, on Redbubble, please do.
That's not in the description.
You say that, but it really is, isn't it, Alex?
No, it always is. I don't put it in the description once you're not on. Are you going to sponsor me? If you give me £2 an episode, I'll put it in the description. There you go.
That sounds like a deal. That sounds like a good deal.
Use code Timeless at checkout. Give me a discount code and we'll talk. But yeah, obviously check out Kevin's stuff. Of course, you can follow the podcast at the Timeless Pod, and you can follow me on Twitter at AlexKing_Dom, and you can follow me on Instagram at Alex_King_Dom. underscore Dom, because they wouldn't let me have Alex King underscore Dom.
Very professional, Alex.
Very,
You know it
very
all.
annoying.
You know it all by memory.
Well, at least because I say it every week.
Oh, fine. I mean,
It's
you can
kind of
tell I
become
listen, right?
it's kind of become muscle memory. It's kind of like when I go, "Hello, everyone, and welcome back to us." I do the same pitch every week now because I've just sort of got it. It's kind of like when they get used to porpoising. That's what it is like. Yeah. For those of you you're Doctor Who fans who are also watching this, next week, episode 100, part 1, we will be ranking all the Doctor Who episodes. We get to a midpoint. I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the middle somewhere, like 120 something. Or no, a bit lower than that. But you get the idea. So find out what the worst episode of Doctor Who history is according to 9 of the podcast contributors. I did ask Kevin, he didn't reply, so he could do.
Did you?
I did. I texted you, go, do you want to join the spreadsheet and put your opinion on some Doctor Who episodes, and you were like, you didn't reply.
Honestly, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I mean, I honestly haven't seen all of them. So.
Yeah, but I haven't seen all of them. I just, there's something in Excel called, a formula which you can edit depending on how many people rate an episode, and you can still come up with the same average.
Wow. Okay.
So I could have just, for episodes that you haven't seen or I haven't.
Well, I mean, you're telling me that now, Alex. Like,
Oh my god. But yes, anyway, guys, we'll see you all soon. Take care. Thank you all so much. It's been a lot of fun. Goodbye.